Hello and welcome back to season 3 of Queerly Thinking. I am your host, Reese Wheatley. I had a very busy summer. I just wanted to do a life update or two before I go over to the interview here. But busy summer. I worked at a summer camp at a daycare and I had a blast taking care of the little ones. And I absolutely adore them and I miss them very much to this day. But I also started testosterone injections instead of the gel. I was becoming a little impatient with the gel. That's just how I personally felt. So my mom's been doing my T injections and plan on trying to start them myself here soon. So wish me luck. I spent a lot of time with family, some much needed time, honestly, and lived at home before moving into my first apartment a few weeks ago, and that's been a blast. And I'll go into that a little bit in an episode or two. Um, I'm excited to embark on my senior year of college, my senior year, I guess, since it's technically my fifth year, but thanks to COVID. So I have been frequenting a bar called the Bar Complex in Lexington, Kentucky, one of the oldest gay bars in Kentucky, for the past year or so. And the drag queens have always made an impression on me, and they've always been so sweet, so kind, so filled with just a light, and their stage presence is everlasting. And they made such an impression on me that I interviewed a few of them for my podcast. So in this first episode, I interviewed Braya and Yasmine Rose, also known as Briar and Avery. Um, Amazing people, amazing performers. I hope that after this interview, someone goes to the bar complex and checks them out because they're just so much fun. But let's head over and see what they had to say during the interview. So if you want to go one by one, you're welcome to. But I appreciate you all being here today. But tell me a little bit about your all's background before we get started.
Yeah, do you want to start or do you want me to?
I can go first if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So hi, I am Brea. I look a little different in this form. This is my day-to-day form. Outside of drag, I go by Briar. That is my government name, the US legal name.
Gotcha.
And outside of drag, I typically do he, him pronouns. Inside drag, I do she, her. But honestly, as long as you don't call me late for dinner, I don't mind.
Period.
Um, I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and have moved every 6 years of my life. Fun fact. Taken me to Kansas City, Louisville, New York, Lexington, which is where I am now. I started drag in Lexington. Actually, fun fact, I didn't. My first drag performance was in Evansville, Indiana. It wasn't even in Lexington. It
Okay.
was an open stage competition. But I consider the start of my drag career to have been in specifically Louisville. I was going to play Louisville quite often, and they really took me under their wing when I was 18 years old. And I really adored all of the girls there, the bartenders, the staff, the management. Everyone there was just so kind to me and so welcoming. And I started wearing makeup as a boy and I started dabbling into that a little bit. And then, I just kind of eventually, when I turned 21, started doing drag. It's too motivational of a story or inspirational, honestly. I moved back from New York, and that's when my drag career really started to pick up. I got a residency at the Bar Complex. I'm a part of the Johnny's Angels cast. And I was also on cast at Play Louisville for a year. And those are like two of like the most successful gay bars, longest lasting gay bars in the state of Kentucky, let alone also in the
Yeah.
United States. Um, and so like that was like really cool. I have since gotten to perform at so many cool places, meeting so many cool people, and um, so much to be excited for.
Yeah.
And you're great at it while you do it, so
Thank
it's
you so
amazing.
much. That means the world to me.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And so my stage name is Yasmine Rose, but my actual name is Avery. A little bit about me. So a little similar to Brea, but I have like a different perspective on how I kind of came into doing drag. So I grew up watching Drag Race, like that was my connection to drag. Like growing up, like being in middle school, not really understanding like what it was, but like seeing like, oh my God, like these pretty ladies like are just all dazzling and stuff like that. And then I like navigated through my transness. So I, came out as a trans woman in high school and was navigating in that woman's space and like understanding like what that meant for me and like how, I resonate with it. And then as I like moved to Lexington, when I went to college, I didn't actually like go and experience really the gay scene or like the drag scene at all. I didn't really get into that until like last year actually. I experienced one of my first drag brunches, which is where I actually met Braya when she did her Taylor Swift brunch, which is really cool. And then from there, I like got to like they did the meet and greet, so I like went out there and talked to her and stuff, and I was like, oh, like you're so pretty. Da, da, da. I really didn't think that I didn't think she was from here. I thought she was like an out of state girl. And then she was like, no, yeah, I work down at the bar complex, and I heard about that, but I said I never went because again, I was one of those fans who liked like drag race girls. Like I really didn't think about local entertainment, and that
Yeah.
was like where I was a little naive, but I was learning. So then I went to the bar complex and I just like loved it and I like fell in love and I kept going back every weekend. And then I would see her and I would see some of the other girls. And then they would just be like, girl, you're too pretty not to be on the stage. And I was like, oh, I just don't know. I don't know. And then I finally like again got closer to them. Again, Brea became my drag mom. And I graced the stage in February. That was my first time ever doing it. And then transitioning up to now. And just really cool also kind of getting to like, really fully like kind of grow up in this scene. Like I'm really like getting to know all the girls, like getting to know like just like the drag culture in a sense. And I feel like I've also like I feel like I put in the work. Like I feel like I really have like tried to be better every time that I hit the stage and like just try to, work on knowing like who Yasmin is. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a really fun fact, actually. My first time performing at the bar complex was February of 2022. Then her
Oh
first performance
wow.
of drag at the bar complex was almost exactly
A
a year
year
to
apart.
date.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy.
just keeping it in the family.
Yeah. And then to now, like me, when I first started just doing open stages on Thursday, which anyone can sign up for and do. And I always recommend, girls, guys, theys, anyone that is just interested in it and like coming out and like showcasing and, just trying it out. So like, being there like on, the weekends, like Fridays and Saturdays and just really having a great time. So it's just really like cool kind of, getting to go through this space, especially with like again a drag mother that's also one of my really good best friends. So it's just really cool. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think definitely being someone that frequents the bar complex pretty often, you all both have a wonderful stage presence, and anytime you come out, it's like, oh shit. Like they walk out, you all walk out in like the perfect outfits every single time. And Brea being like that T Swift fan and also
Yes,
just like embodying T Swift's energy is
literally.
like perfect.
It's Taylor.
Thank you so much. That literally means the world to me. I am one of the biggest Swifties. Like I mean, that's a comparative word, I guess. I don't know compared to other Swifties how big of a Swiftie they are, but I'm a really big Swiftie. And so
Yeah.
I get to go out and do what I love every weekend, and it's so cool.
Yeah. So what's your all's experience in the drag scene been like?
I would say like for me that it's really been positive. So it's really been like just positive and it's just been fun. Like I've connected with all the girls that like again I've my experience is mainly just with the bar complex. I have not performed many other places besides crossings, I think at this point. And a couple brunch spots that some of my friends have like offered me an olive branch too, which I'm really appreciative of. But the majority of my time has been at the bar complex and it's been nothing but great. It's just really good vibes, like and just kind of like a sense of family. And I think that's one thing that I feel like sometimes doesn't really get talked about a lot is that sense of like connection and like, just that like the family sense you have. So like again, there's girls back there that I consider like my aunts, or like again, that could be almost considered like, your mother hen that like just like like you have your drag mother, but you also have like, you're almost like drag elders that like, if there's something you're not sure about, you can always go to, like you can always ask them and they can kind of give you their guidance on what they did with, back in the day. So, and I think also like, just also getting to experience all variations of drag. Like there's not like at the bar, like there's not just one cookie cutter. There's not just one standard type of drag. There's like alt drag, that there's again we have the king drags, like our drag kings that don't always have good representation. Again, we see that we see trans representation with me, my drag grandmother, and then some of the other girls that work there as well. Again, we also see it from some trans men, which is awesome, and I think that's definitely something that could get like highlighted more. But overall, I've had a great time with it. Like I've really enjoyed it. It's one of my
Yeah.
passions.
Um, Drag for me has been such a whirlwind. It has been like the journey, like I've only been doing it for a year and a half. And I would say about the first 6 months of me doing drag, it was me embodying like the new girl persona, where it's like you don't say no to gigs, you do as many as you can, you put your name out there on social media, you just put yourself out there. And the first like city that I really like put myself out there in was in Lexington, and Lexington opened its arms to me like huge. Like they were booking me, they were giving me opportunities to express myself, and I am and for always will be so grateful to Lexington for that. And I've also been grateful because Lexington's not the only city who has like welcomed me with open arms. I've been in Louisville, in Cincinnati. I have been in several small towns across the state of Kentucky. I'm going to be in Dayton, Ohio for the first time next week, which I'm really excited
Oh,
for.
cool.
Yes, but something that I've noticed is that every city has a very unique drag scene. Every city has a family that Avery was mentioning earlier. Like here at the bar complex, we have ours, and when guests come in, I think we always do our best to like welcome them in, make them feel like they're part of the family for the time that they are there. And, that is something that I really admire visiting other cities. Lexington is home for me. So being at the bar complex is something that I'm very comfortable with. But going to a new scene is almost the same equivalent as starting a new job. You are working with people you have not met before, and if you have met them before, maybe it's just on social media, and maybe you've never had a conversation with them before, and you're about to go into a workroom in which they're all family, and you are the new person. You don't know whether they're going to like you, whether they're going to want to be friends with you. It's all very nerve-wracking, but I think the cool thing about drag and the thing that makes drag so unique is that like queer people look out for each other.
Hmm.
You see a queer person and you're like, okay, that's family. Whether or not we like each other, no one else can pick on that person. I can pick on them, but no one else can. Like, and it's all very,
Exactly.
and that is one consistency that I have seen in the drag, like in multiple different drag scenes that I have been able to go and visit. It's not just here at the bar. Drag is everywhere, and that same familial feeling that you can get while at the bar complex can be replicated in so many different ways at so many different bars. And I think that that is like the coolest part about drag. It's just like how universal it is almost. It's like there's a handbook that is written, that is invisible, that no one has seen or read or honestly even written, but everyone follows those rules. And like it's just a really cool, it's so cool. It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, so it's lovely to hear that like you all have each other's backs. No matter, I'm sure you all bicker. I know that I've interviewed some drag queens over the summer and you all were bantering back and forth backstage, but it was still like encouraging to see because you all clearly love each other and support each other to the utmost. Maybe if some of you are not even close friends.
Mhm.
Um, but other than like the camaraderie between drag queens and the queer community, what would you say has kept you in drag?
Kept me doing drag. Honestly, I think for me, it has always been about like the impact, I guess. You're told when you're young, you can like, what is your dream? You're asked, what is your dream? And you're like, kids say veterinarian, bus driver, fun fact, when I was asked that question, I always used to say bus driver. I always wanted to be a bus driver. My mom used to like it really would make my mom chuckle, you know. She was like, yeah, you're gonna be behind that big bus and you can't even drive your little Ford Fusion, you know, like it was like always
Oh my God.
at the time. But we would always like tease about how like I probably was not gonna be like the bus driver or whatever. And anywho, the thing that like about drag is that like I am given like a platform that I get to meet so many people and I get to hear about all of the things that they are passionate about, whether they are advocates for the queer community and that's how they make their living, or if they are out there being an executive for a high end fashion company, or a doctor, a lawyer, moms, dads. Like there are just so many different stories out there, and like because of like the platform I have been able to meet so many cool people, hear so many cool stories, and the stories are like I don't think that people understand that like them telling their story, it is inspirational to everyone who listens to it, including the people who are on stage who you think are inspiring you. And so like when I get to hear the stories, when I get to hear like the personal testimonies about like what it meant to be queer for them, or what it means to be a mom to them, or what it means to be a good friend or an employee or a CEO, it is almost as if like I gain a new perspective on my own life, as if like I can perhaps apply some of the things that they are doing to what I'm doing. And then, you know, like I grow. Ultimately, I think it's just like, it's not just the community backstage, it's the community in general, being able to embrace them and embrace those stories and hear them. And it's addicting. I love here. I love meeting new people. That is it. I love meeting new people.
I would
Gotcha.
say similar to what Brad said, but I'll kind of go into a different area that I think about. Is I just think about representation. So like for me, like again, I'm a trans woman of color, so I'm half black and half white. So like for me, like it's important that I can also like potentially inspire, you know, maybe a black or trans or you know just in general like anyone. But like in theory, like again, my I'm going back to like my minority of like again like the representation of again I would hope that maybe like a trans girl, black, brown, blue, what doesn't really matter, but like that's what's specific to me, sees me up there and like sees me like having a good time and like, you know, putting on a good show and like the positivity and all that good stuff. And then they think like, oh my God, like that's something that I would want to do. Like, cause I know that again, that's the full circle for me is like, that's how it was for me. Like I came in there, didn't really know about it. I saw like what it was and I was enamored and I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like they look so pretty. Like they put on a great show. Like they get to interact with the crowd. The crowd is living for them. They're living for them, or they're living for the crowd. And just like that, like relation, like that 3 or 4 minutes, like you really can connect with a group, like of a big group of audience. And I think it's really cool. And I just also think it's just like, I don't know, like I just really enjoy like being able to be like that influence or like be that role model for someone to be like, oh my God, like I really like the way what she does. Like the way she does it is amazing. Like it was very similar to like with Braya or to like one of my I feel like idols. Her name was My Opinion. She's just like
Love her.
stereotypical, like, you know, just good old drag. And I
Mhm.
like love that. And I don't think that we see it a lot. And I think that she also does a good job of doing like traditional drag, but keeping it up to date.
Mhm.
Like same thing like politics, her partner as well, like does also a good job. There's just tons of staples in the community, but I would say like going there, like and seeing like, oh my God, like I see like traditional drag, but then I also see like, you know, like an illusionist drag, like, you know, like I just like seeing the different facades. And I really think that that's what I like is like being that representation for people who either may not understand what drag is. Because again, I'm always down to like talk and kind of, you know, educate people. But also to like encourage them to potentially also, you know, step on the stage. Cause again, that was something that I never thought that I could do. Like I was very nervous and, you know, really shy. And then I found that I actually really loved it. So
Yeah.
again, mine I think is that representation for me.
Yeah. Well, it's lovely to hear from both of you because I know that I kind of started popping in the bar complex last summer. I was going through a lot, so I would just go with a friend, have a drink, and watch you guys. and just I was kind of shy at first. You know, I'm not normally like that. I mean, I host this podcast and this is my third season, so I'm often like out there with
Word.
people. Um,
Congratulations on your third season,
Yes.
by the
Thank
way. That's
you.
so cool.
Thank you. I'm hoping to release this kind of quirky on my birthday next week.
Oh,
So that's the goal for this episode. So you guys are going to be in the birthday episode,
yay! Woo! Happy
which
birthday.
I'm,
Happy
thank
Yes.
birthday.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
include
you.
the slip in there. Happy birthday.
But I know that like throughout this summer and interviewing everybody, Avery, I know this is my first time meeting you, but you are just wonderful on that stage. But I know that I felt more welcomed in the community starting this summer, even though I started going last summer, but I was afraid to say hi and afraid to compliment you guys because when you're in those heels and in that makeup, there's a certain intimidation that happens. But now it's like, oh, you're killing it. Like, I love that song. Your hair is flawless today. And, you know, being a trans person myself, I feel like I've been able to embrace my identity a lot more since going to the bar complex because it's one of my only safe havens that I have. Like my family's
Yeah.
accepting, etc. And I have plenty of support system. But you guys in some way or another feel like it's a support system. And I
Yeah.
know that that rings true for most audience members.
Yeah. I think like, and kind of going back on like from your trans experience, it's like trans people, that's something that, I don't even think ourselves, right? Because we always try to be like strong, we try to be there. But like in social settings, like we're like sometimes we are on edge because we're like we don't know how this is gonna go. Like, is someone going to try to clock your tea, and then you're like, what? Like, depending on what the situation is, like, how's it gonna go? Like, or are there going to be catty people that are there? Like, are there, like, there's so many
Exactly.
things that can go on in a social setting that can make a trans person, not just a trans person, but for us, we're in that same realm, or even just a queer people in community that can be uncomfortable. And I do think that the bar does a good job at like, trying to welcome and show that like, and we are in a melting pot, like we are a community where again, you don't have to feel like at tension, like you can be at ease, you can have a good time. And I do know from personal experience, like I've never felt more joy with having so much queer people in my circle. Like that was one thing that I just didn't do prior to going to the bar. Like I was just very much I try to be on that cookie cutter, like of, I'm just trying to blend in, I'm trying to pass. Like I don't want to have to disclose this, unless I have like a partner. But like in another realm, like it was just very much a lot of straight people, which I don't mind. Like I love my straight people, cis people love you. But like I I can clearly tell like the joy that I have now is way different than it was before, and I really think that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you all bring so much joy to the community, but I'm gonna try and ask people. I did it last season. I tried to ask everybody similar question towards the end of the episode, but I would love to know what brings you all joy nowadays, whether it's involving the queer community or it's just a personal thing that makes you happy.
I have a really nerdy one. This is so embarrassing, and I
Go for
cannot
it.
wait to share this on camera.
See what I know what you're gonna say.
So I have picked up a new hobby,
Okay.
and it is okay. I'm just okay. We're gonna get into
Go
this.
Barbie.
So this new hobby of mine, I am rolling coins now. I
Oh.
am
Okay.
collecting coins like off the ground, and in my mind, I think like I'm saving this penny from the torment of the natural conditions outside. Like I have a whole little playbook in my head. And so I like will collect coins that I see like on the ground, and I have this little coffee cup next to my TV at home, and I put all of them in there. And when I get 50 pennies, then I like roll a new roll of pennies, or if I get 50 dimes, I roll a new roll of dimes. So that's
I love that.
I'm so dead, but that is something that has been bringing me immense amounts of joy here lately. I That is so nerdy, I know. Outside of that, of course, the normal answers of like Taylor Swift. Been watching a lot of Wife Swap here lately, so I've been enjoying that.
Interesting.
Just little cliche things. I'm in this huge era of self-love and learning to take care of myself at the moment. Not like physically, but like mentally and emotionally. And so like the
Yeah.
little things are just like really cool to me. And I feel like a child again because I'm like finding this interest in things that
Yeah.
like are so, young feeling. But hey, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like in between the edge of like nerdy, but also really cool. Because it's like not something that anyone could look at you and be like, yeah, he totally does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're strange hobby.
I have never said that to anyone before other than like my closest friends. So that's really this is my debut as a
Word.
coin
You
roller.
better work.
I promise there's been weirder said on this podcast.
Oh, I bet I'm guaranteed that there has. I guarantee.
But what about you, Avery?
I would say what brings me joy. So, of course, one of them is drag. For me, especially, like, I also have a different relationship with it. Like, it's like a creative outlet for me, like, because I do have a full-time job that I do day in and day out. So like drag is like what I do like as a part-time hobby. But also, I find joy in like hanging out with my friends, which is cliche enough. But traveling, enjoying great music. So again, a multitude of things, which include Taylor Swift. We connect on that. And then also I would say just like just quality time. I would say really just quality time, either with myself or with my friends. And I would say also probably therapy. Therapy has been also kind of brought me some joy too. So I would say those are the bulk of mine for this chapter in my life right now.
I
What are
love
you
that for
doing?
you guys.
Yeah.
For
What brings you
fun,
joy? Yeah.
Yeah.
What brings you joy?
I just moved into my first apartment by myself.
Oh my God,
So big
congratulations.
Word.
boy
The
shit.
king. The king.
And honestly, I've learned like I took myself to the Barbie movie on Saturday
Hi,
and
Barbie.
I connected with it in like a different way than I think like maybe females do, or at
Okay,
least female
I'm actually
identifying.
so obsessed with the Barbie movie. If you would feel comfortable doing so, I would love to hear how you perceived the Barbie movie.
Sure. So the two things I connected with were, and I guess this is a spoiler warning for any listeners that haven't seen it. But you're crazy if you haven't. But the scene where Barbie is talking to Ken in the bedroom near the end of the movie, and she's like,
Mhm.
"You need to figure out who you are without me."
Yeah.
I think I've always, in like the best way possible, connected my identity to my friends, my family, any exes, but all of that is who I am in my eyes. But I never, at the end of the day, stopped and thought, like, who is Reese? Like, who is he
Yeah.
without mom and dad, with all my siblings and all my friends? Like, outside of everyone, who am I at the end of the day when I'm alone in bed? And that's what I connected with most, along with just like stereotypical Barbie realizing that like she's a bad bitch and she can do anything at the end of the movie and she's like getting a job and just like the independency of all of it. That's how I connected with it. But I would love to hear your thoughts too.
So fun fact, I thank you for sharing that, by the way. That is the
Yeah.
perspective I have not heard from someone before. And like the significance of that scene, like, like I saw that scene on TikTok before I even saw the actual movie itself, the whole like you've got to figure out who yourself is and all of that kind of stuff. I love that scene. Um, I have seen the Barbie movie now 6 times. I went on a second yesterday. Yes, I
Oh,
know.
okay.
He's on the scene again. Um, but yeah, I went again yesterday, and every single time that I have gone, I have truly had like a new like perception onto like that movie. But I think my favorite one that like I've really clung on to is seeing Barbie and the relationship between Barbie and Ruth, the creator of Barbie, the one who she
Hmm.
made Barbie in the image likeness of her daughter Barbara. Um, and at the end of the movie, she walks into the gynecologist, and you have no idea, but she was like, my name is Healer, comma Barbara, and I'm here to see my gynecologist. And she's just smiling like ear to ear.
Mhm.
That in combination with the montage of like, who are you? Like, permission to be a human. In my mind, I started making the connection, metaphorical connection of Barbie being your inner child, your like the inner you. And for me, that has always been Braya. Braya has always been inside of me. And for the first 22 years of my or 21 years of my life, I was going about just in like Briar, knowing that Braya was like a part of me and not fully having that, like not fully expressing it. And then I gave myself permission to like let Braya experience the world as a human, let her have emotions, let her exist in a world that can be so uncomfy to make it more comfortable for Briar as well as like everyone who is watching, if that makes sense. And so it's that whole inner child dialogue has always been the thing that has stuck out the most to me, I think, from the Barbie movie. And then, of course, that
Cool.
iconic scene where it's like, you have to be skinny, but you can't be too skinny. And you can't say you want to be skinny. You have to say you want to be healthy, but you have to look
Mhm.
skinny. And like that scene, mwah, iconic.
Yeah.
That definitely hit home for me because I was like, shit. I was sitting there, I went to go see it by myself, and there was like this really muscular, like, I'm in Richmond. So there was like this country boy in front of me, presumably on a date, and I was just behind him, like sobbing.
I
I
I
was
love that.
just sobbing.
So when I went on this second date a couple days ago to see the Barbie movie again, I was so nervous I was gonna cry because I cried all other 5 times and cried. There's nothing wrong with crying. However,
Yeah, of
I did
course.
a trauma dump on a second date. And so I was sitting there and I was like, just be good, you're good, you're good. And I successfully only welled up in tears. On the sixth try around, the first five I cried.
Okay, so you did like a little Kardashian wipe and you were like, I'm
A
okay.
very PR that, yeah.
I love that reference. I hope to the CGI tier that everybody was talking about. I just recently watched the episode of the Kardashians. I'm like obsessed. That's like my
Who's the
brain break
favorite?
for the day. I used to really love Courtney until the Italy thing, I'll admit. And then I was like, it's
Is
Really?
that when
Chloe.
she is that when she copied Kim's? There's like a whole
Not because
TikTok.
she copied her, but like the lack of communication she had with her sister. I was like, I'm
Um,
gonna be a little judgy and side with Chloe and Kim on this. So,
No clue what this drama is.
I don't know what this drama is either, but I feel like that's a common narrative. I feel
Yeah.
like Chloe and Kim are always the two that are like the good sisters
mhm.
with each other, and then Courtney's always like the one that somehow is on the other side of every argument
Yeah.
of her other two like
I
counterparts.
feel like Courtney is very similar to if like you watch Charmed, Prue,
Mm-mm.
then
I've never
Piper.
seen Charmed.
Well, we won't go down that rabbit hole. But if there's any Charm fans out there, please let me know if my idea I think is correct. But I do think that she is the Prue, and she's the older sister, and she's the one that's most stubborn. It's got to be her way or the highway, and blase
Mm.
blase.
My friends and I do this thing where we tag ourselves,
Yeah.
and it's like if there's a TV show, we take the cast and we tag ourselves as the cast. And in the Kardashians, I have always been told that I am either Kim or Kylie.
She's Kim.
Yeah, this is little North.
Okay. I love that. Well, we're nearing the end of the interview because the recording only lets me go for 40 minutes, which
Okay,
is
whatever.
lovely. But I'll end with what would you say to somebody that's like kind of newly out and kind of new to the queer community and say they're wanting to visit the bar complex?
Do you want me to start or do you want to?
You can.
I would say, if you can, go with your friends because, as most people know, like that's when you're most comfortable. But don't be scared to go by yourself. Like for me, like when I started coming out, like I started with my friends and then I enjoyed it. But some people they can only take it in increments. I was going every weekend. Like I was very much addicted to it. And I had to get more comfortable with myself just going out by myself because that was something that I just hardly never did. But I'm very thankful that I did because again, I met Braya, I met the girls at the bar, I met like also just lovely people outside like who don't work for the bar, but like who frequent the bar. So I would say like just be willing and open to potentially go out of your comfort zone. Because you never know what rewards you're gonna get. Like I said, that my life has never been as much joyous as it is now. So and I wouldn't have, I don't think had that if I didn't make the plunge just to go, to go out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my biggest piece of advice to someone like just now, finding their feet inside of whatever queer community or city they might be in, even if it's not Lexington, if it's Louisville or Nashville, I'm not sure the demographic of your audience. But I think one consistent thing that you can take across all of them is I want to encourage people to have the courage not to be scared or not to let their fear hinder them. And by that I mean like go and like be you. Specifically at the bar complex, like I mentioned earlier, meeting people and hearing stories and seeing their own unique side of things, their creativity when it comes to their what they are wearing, their stories that they are telling about their experience, whatever that may be, whatever is like rings true and is like the most authentic version of yourself, have the courage to show that. Because
Yeah.
personally, like, I adore that. I love getting to meet people in that sense of vulnerability. Do not be scared to be vulnerable, basically. Because the idea of it all is that everyone in there is also anxious, is also probably struggling with something else, is also scared of being vulnerable. Like you are never actually alone in that, even though it's one of the most lonely and isolating feelings. So have the courage to overcome your fears and be you, the most truest and authentic version, because that's who we want to meet.
Two of the sweetest people I have ever met in my life, right? They are so, so kind, and I loved interviewing them. Please go check them out on social media under Brea and Yasmine Rose. So that will conclude this episode. Quite short, but also filled with love and joy. So, next episode, I am talking to Amy Byers Figs about her life experience and having a trans son, and we will get into a little bit of an update about Senate Bill 150. Thank you for joining me on the Eastern Progress Media Network. This has been Queerly Thinking. Be kind to yourself. Take care.